Hi, I'm Shelby Thompson, and this is my case study video for AEP 858. I wanted to start off with a brief overview of the case. PTO groups at Truman Elementary are concerned about reading scores compared to students' math scores. As the principal, I have had the reading specialist come in and do an evaluation as well as myself. And there are indeed some concerns with reading instruction that are reflecting upon standardized reading assessments. And the PTO is actually inquiring to have or discuss those scores in an upcoming meeting. So I first wanted to start off with three things that I know for sure. The three things that I know are the 3-year standardized reading test data that shows that scores are slipping, especially as the grades get higher. So percentile scores are getting lower and lower the higher the grade level is. So to me, that shows that students aren't retaining or that we aren't meeting the level each year that we need to. Second, the thing that I know is that PTO has voiced a concern of reading deficits at Truman by viewing the reading scores that are public through the newspaper. Then three, the last thing that I know is that the reading specialist, as well as myself, have done some evaluations into the reading instruction at Truman. So now are the three things that I need to know. I need to know what are the chances of Truman receiving grant money through ESA, and how many teachers will need a major shift in their mindset and thinking of their instruction. And three is what is the climate of change towards an improvement as a staff. I need to know those three things because I think that is essentially, as the building leader, who can I go to and get people fired up or involved or on the go with our new reading instruction, those kinds of things. So this leads me to the problem is that parents have voiced concern about reading scores at Truman and would like to hear from the principal, for myself, on possible plans of action to change reading instruction. So now for my plan of action. The 3 steps that I want to solve the problem is first meeting with teachers. The second would be meeting with the PTO. And then third would be professional development. So for the strategies for those would be first meeting with teachers. I would want to discuss the data, the reading testing data, as well as the reading specialist evaluations. And then I would use the CFIP strategy when discussing this data to make sure that we are being constructive in our discussions, making sure that people feel respected and heard with their opinions and things like that. And I would hope that through those discussions, we could develop a vision or goal that teachers would like to go in with that new reading instruction data. My second strategy with meeting with PTO is that I would use that vision, goal, things that I've talked about with teachers in that meeting with PTO. So that way we are a solution focused meeting and showing them, okay, you have this concern. This is what I've showed teachers and this is what we've come up with teachers. Now this is what we're going with for the goal and how we're going to be a solution focused team together. And then so using that solution focused, my third step with professional development would be carving out professional development time for teachers to learn new strategies to help improve reading scores. So next, I wanted to resolve the issue keeping in mind what's best for students. By using the recommendations of the reading specialist, I feel like that's keeping student success in mind because that person is the expert in knowing what's best for reading instruction and what teachers should be doing. I looked at the data that coincided with that. And the big thing that stuck out to me with the data of the standardized tests was that the median percentiles were getting smaller and smaller in number, the higher and higher that the grade levels went up. So to me, that's showing that students aren't maybe retaining the information or we're not getting in quality instruction individually for students. So maybe our median scores are shrinking and going down so that our higher end students are being pushed and our lower level students probably aren't making the gains that they need to as well. That leads me to our debrief. I was first thinking about the recommendations that the reading specialist made and thinking about how we could use those within our classroom and how to approach those to teachers to show them. And that leads me to the second, what I was feeling, that I needed to address the concerns of parents, but also make sure that the teachers were feeling represented. In my experience, I feel like if you come at teachers at a viewpoint of you're doing something wrong, you're not teaching good, then they're immediately going to put walls up, and that's what you don't want to have happen. So if you can get teachers feeling like they're being heard as well as parents, then it's going to move in the direction that you want to as an administrator. And then third, I was valuing the viewpoint of the data as well as the view of the teachers being involved in responding to the concerns of parents. So making sure that people are feeling heard and a part of the solution, I feel like that gets people on board to solve the problem together. And that better helps our students. My 3 unresolved or open issues, the first one was how are we going to make immediate changes? Because usually sometimes when we're meeting and we're discussing and we're showing all this data, it takes a little bit for that to change our instruction. And so it doesn't immediately impact the group of students that we're teaching every day in the classroom. Second was whether or not the school would receive the grant money in order to help with professional development. So if our school did not get the grant money, then how would we go about changing our reading instruction and reading practices? And then third would be, I want professional development for the teachers, but what is that going to look like for them? Is that an outside consultant coming in? Is that assigning webinars for teachers? Is that sending teachers to a conference and then coming back and teaching other teachers? That was another open issue that needed to be decided. And so that leads me to reflecting on Standard 8 and how did I, as the building leader, the first one was acting as an agent for continuous improvement. I wanted to make sure that teachers are a part of the process so that they're reflecting on their practices, and then that in and of itself is making sure that we're improving our practices by people reflecting on what they're doing and then hopefully changing it or always adapting their practices to make themselves better. Second was using data to make sure that our decisions were grounded in research. I feel like if we always are looking towards data, then we're looking towards improvement. How can we shift that number to make it better to help our students? And then third, informing PTO of the decisions that were made in regards to reading. This was my community outreach, making sure that the community feels involved in the direction that the school is going in. Next, using the data to respond and communicate, again, to the larger community. The first was having the meeting with the PTO, and then next meeting with teachers to make sure their voices and vision are being heard. And then lastly, using the evaluation data to drive the conversation around reading improvement. All 3 of these things are making sure that we're building a community within the school that are voicing concerns, but those concerns are being heard and then being acted upon and being solved, not just people bringing up problems, and then it's not getting solved, or then structural practices are not being changed to meet those concerns. This other one was about policies and laws. The first point I wanted to bring up was the ESSA grant, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act grant. I looked into a little bit of research on that and making sure that we can allocate those funds in the school that they can better support reading programs. So making sure that we understand how we're supposed to use those funds. Second is I'll make sure to only release data by grade level and not specific teachers to PTO. I think that's just a personal thing. You don't want, I don't think you want parents understanding the dynamics between teachers and how teachers approach their own improvement. I feel like you want them to just be teachers as a whole, if that makes sense. You don't want them to single out single teachers to parents in a way, because it wouldn't benefit the teacher. the teacher would not feel backed by the administrator and feel as if they can improve. Third, I went through the correct channels of command when assessing reading instruction by making sure that it wasn't just myself evaluating reading practices, but also the reading specialist came in to weigh in on their opinion. So that's bringing in another voice of expertise with making sure that I'm bringing positive change for that impact. Another one was establishing an ongoing dialogue. I want to make sure that the PTO feels valued by addressing their concerns, not just sweeping it under the rug or avoiding the situation. Second, I will make sure to have a follow-up with PTO after the professional development has been completed, saying this is what professional development has been done, and with regards to the concerns that you had, this is how it's going to be used in the classroom. These are the perspectives, or this is what we're hoping comes out of that, because this is the goal we've set for ourselves. Just having that ongoing follow-up and making sure that that's happening with parents and those parent groups. And then that leads me to third, having that ongoing relationship with PTO so that they do feel like there is a discussion, that their voice is being heard, and it's solution focused, not just problem. That we're actually, okay, here is something that you're concerned with. Okay, how are we going to solve that issue and be together on the issue so that we are better helping our students and building that team and community around them. That was my final slide. Thank you for listening, and I hope to listen to some of your guys' case studies. Thank you.